Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Meyer Chats. And during this holiday season, I have a wonderful guest with me today, Alexander Rogan. Welcome to Meyer Chats.
Good evening or good afternoon, Evan, depending on our time zones, but great to be here.
Great to be here, too. I only talk about the holiday season because I have this holiday season-ish plant behind me. I don't think our conversation will revolve too much about the holidays.
Probably not.
Let me give you a quick AI-assisted introduction with some of my own personalizations, and we'll get a little bit into your background and some of your amazing insights and stories. Alexander Rogan brings a rare mix of 15 plus years living inside Russia, firsthand exposure to Russia's security services, and early experience surviving a coordinated insider cyber attack. His background gives him a geopolitical lens few cybersecurity founders have. He's now leading Abatis, a military-grade patented cybersecurity technology used by governments and critical infrastructure for 20 plus years with zero breaches. Unlike detection tools, Abatis stops attacks before they execute, saving organizations billions wasted on reactive solutions. On Meyer Chats, we spend a lot of time talking about trust, how it's built, how it's broken, and how hard it is to restore once people lose faith in institutions. One place that trust quietly lives and quietly erodes is inside the digital systems governments rely on every day. When those systems fail, citizens feel the consequences: identity theft, disruption of services, and fear, to name a few. In today's conversation, we're going to explore all of this and its relationship to improving our public systems and our democracy. Alexander, thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure, Evan.
Why don't we start? Just give me a little more background about yourself and the biggest problem you're trying to solve right now with regards to your cybersecurity company.
Well, I was fortunate enough to buy Abatis Security Innovations Technologies GmbH or GmbH 3 years ago. I was introduced to the company by my brother in 2017, and then over sort of a period of time, I got closer to the organization, and finally June 2022 I was able to become the sort of the new custodian of Abatis. I was attracted to the business because of its impeccable history, its track record. I don't think there's a security software solution out there that's never had a reported breach. I just don't think it exists. Yet, despite being deployed protecting critical national infrastructure in Europe for 2 decades, up against fierce interests from not just criminals but also nation state attackers, it's very much stood that test of time. So I was very, very pleased to be able to invest in the company, and now democratize it, I suppose. Yeah, we're not. It's not now just for military or for governments or for critical national infrastructure. We've made it easier to work with. We spent 2 years in a laboratory, sort of improving what was already, I think, the strongest security solution. So we could actually start delivering this to enterprise and to the end user, which is what we're doing now. That's the market that we're in now.
So what kind of government security breaches are we talking about that you help protect? And are there some examples that have happened that you think are noteworthy that people haven't understood or know about or know the implications of?
I can talk about attacks that have happened that had Abatis been deployed, then we would have stopped. One of the most notorious was the SolarWinds hack, where Russian intelligence hijacked SolarWinds code and then was distributed amongst, I think, just about every federal agency that there was in the US. And then they were sat inside those agencies for a number of years. Abatis is fundamentally different to traditional cybersecurity technologies. Abatis will stop an attack before it starts. Our competitors are operating with a managed detection or response model. So the problem with that is you kind of have to have a breach before you start doing your work. So the bad guys get in, then you eventually identify that there's been a breach and try and see patterns, things that are going on within your IT infrastructure that shouldn't be happening. And then you go hunt the bad guy. And when you found the bad guy, then obviously, you can fix the problem, you can write the patch, and you can sort of plug that hole. But the problem is, how long are they in there for? How much damage are they doing? What are they doing in there? Are they exfiltrating data? If it's a spy organization, if it's a criminal attack, they could be encrypting your data for ransomware, things like that.
Hmm.
IBM said recently that the average time to identify and mitigate against an attack is 250 days. And in the IT world, I mean, that's a lifetime. Yeah. And
Oh yeah,
yeah.
might as well be a decade.
So Abatis's great strength is to actually stop that attack before it starts. So the cost savings that we bring are manifold. I mean, it's just, we de-stress environments. It just, when I talk to a risk owner, the question I ask is, do you want to stop an attack before it starts or not? And, who's going to say no? Who wants to go play whack-a-mole with bad guys?
Well, who does say no? That's a good question. That's a good follow-up question, really, is why would someone say no to something like that? Other than cost, barrier to entry being cost or something.
If it's the risk owner, he
Yeah.
will absolutely agree with me. Yeah. You don't want to say no. You want to stop an attack before it starts because of the pain. If it's government agencies, then we don't just stop bad guys, we stop anybody getting into a computer system by default. So people who want to watch what's going on in computer systems, not necessarily the bad guys. It could be the good guys as well, just doing something perhaps they shouldn't be doing, that you don't want them to do.
Right.
So I've had some interesting conversations with people in government who absolutely don't like what we do, what we're capable of. But it's, we'll protect.
But why don't they like it? I must know why a government, knowing what's at stake, how much could be at stake, right? We're talking about constituent
Evan,
level, government level employees.
I think that there is a school of thought out there that a good offense trumps a good defense. And they do not like the fact that you can stop people arbitrarily getting into your computer system. There is no defense, practically no defense against what's called a 0-day attack or an unknown. Yeah, if the bad guys or the good guys turn up with your computer system, and you're using traditional antivirus, traditional cybersecurity tools, if your traditional cybersecurity has not been introduced to the technology that the bad guys are using against you, it will not stop it.
Right.
That's a 0-day. Yeah. Abatis will stop a 0-day. In the same way that we will stop a forced update from your vendor, or indeed from Microsoft. Yeah. I mean, Microsoft issue patches. You probably want to test the patch before you deploy it. So just don't allow them to don't allow anybody to just, upgrade your computer system. Always test it first, and test it in pre-production. So our code doesn't differentiate between a bad actor, threat actor, or a forced update from your IT provider. Both can be equally damaging. In fact, up until when we were last year, I think it was. CrowdStrike, one of the biggest, most successful cybersecurity companies, had a very,
Mhm.
very unfortunate incident where one of their bad updates crashed like 8.5 million computers globally. Billions
Oh
of
yeah,
dollars. Yeah, I mean everybody. Yeah, I mean I think the airline. Yeah,
Cloudflare, was it Cloudflare?
yeah. No, 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 no. That's another. That's another. No,
That
this
was
is
that was the other one.
CrowdStrike.
Oh, okay.
Cloudflare was more recent.
That was the
Yeah,
more recent one where
that was a
like
more recent
it was
one.
like
Yeah,
Adobe was down,
everything.
right?
Well,
Every
a third of the world's
yeah.
websites went down,
Yeah, it was. I
which is
remember it
another.
impacted me. Like three things I used were down. I was like,
Yeah,
"This is
well,
horrible."
my marketing team was saying, we can't use Canvas, we can't, Zoom's down, we can't
Yeah,
do
right.
this, we can't do that. I
Yeah,
mean, it was just the problem.
someday.
Sidetracking slightly, the problem there is there's no decentralization anymore. Yeah, you've got such a concentration of services in a very, very small group of companies, and that's dangerous.
Right,
So is trust. Yeah, we operate, propagate, push zero trust. Don't trust anybody. You can't. You you can't outsource your risk. So
right.
if you're the risk owner, it's your company, it's your business, you cannot outsource that risk. So why on earth do you trust, whether it's Microsoft or AWS or CrowdStrike or anybody else, any of the others? Why would you trust them with your business? Read their SLAs.
Yeah. Of
Yeah.
course, or
So
with your just to bring it back to government with your constituents and with your employee information, or why
yeah,
would
no,
you?
look, you're right, and you see these dreadful situations where entire cities have been knocked over.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they've got a problem as well because they're told by the industry, you're running legacy equipment, you've got old IT equipment, you've got to junk the old, buy the new, then you know then we'll make you safe. It's a fallacy. It's complete rubbish.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that's pretty. Are there maybe incentive structures that need to change? Is it in order to understand the full impact of what you're talking about, what needs to happen within government? Do they have to hit rock bottom? Do they have to have some, especially now with how fast AI can, AI
They're at the
hacking
bottom
or
now,
like,
Evan. Yeah, they're at the bottom now. Yeah, without a doubt. Um, I mean, that's not to say it won't get worse, but we're just going to get more of the same.
we'll
Yeah,
use the DMV. Let's start with it. Let's start with like the DMV, just because it's relatable to everybody, right? Traffic tickets and the DMV thing, and taxes, IRS, DMV,
yeah,
two acronyms
yeah.
everyone in America knows really, really well.
Everybody
Uh,
loves. Yeah, they're going to be really upset when they get hacked, aren't they?
well, so let's dive into that, because the DMV, I've worked at the Senate before. I've seen, been privy to, some information around bills and how the DMV works, of moving, traffic citation bills, for example, and what that has to go through, and how hard it is for the DMV using their old, I think it's Oracle. I just remember seeing something that I was like, all right, to make this traffic citation change in the policy, it cost $500,000 or something to make the change, of the impact of the fiscal impact to make that change. So you have to wonder what's going on at the systems level at
Well,
these computers.
I can be a bit of a cynic,
Yeah.
and I can't remember who it was in Washington who said follow the money. But there is always, there is a lot of unnecessary spend going on, um, propagated, I think, by our industry. Yeah, I mean, our
Security
industry.
industry,
Yeah, but the cybersecurity industry. I mean,
cybersecurity.
we're worth. I don't know. You see anything between 200 and 400 billion a year dollars spent on cybersecurity. It's a huge ticket.
Yeah.
And yet the damage that's done, the damage that's done to the global economy is greater than the Japanese GDP. It sits just behind China. So last year, the cost to the globe was $10.5 trillion.
In terms of mitigating attacks, or in terms of
Mitigating, cleanup, damage, businesses failed, governments having to step in and
wow,
support industries. It's absolutely huge, colossal
yeah,
number.
devastating.
Yeah.
Wow,
Right. So you're spending 400 billion and you're not stopping $10.5 trillion worth of damage. The companies who are doing the invoicing, they're doing the billing, they're collecting the money from the clients, are spending more money on sales and marketing than they are on research and development.
sure. I wonder if it's because they can't feel it directly sometimes, right? If the impact to them is like, oh, it impacts other people and we don't get enough complaints, is there political will even to
You're
move the
absolutely
needle?
you're absolutely right, and that is questionable. I kind of sometimes, depth of despair. You think the industry needs like a Michael Moore moment, somebody to come along and make one of those dreadful movies like Michael Moore did in the past with, pharmaceutical or the tobacco industries. Because there's 400 billion reasons out there not to make a change, 400 billion
Sure,
reasons not to fix a problem. And what we're seeing in the industry is old ideas are being rehashed. They're sticking an AI prefix on there, putting a couple of zeros on the end of the product, pushing it out, and they're telling people that you're going to be safe. And it's patently not true. Organizations are not safe against the current threats that are out there with the current security methodology that's being used. Um,
sure.
yeah, you
So let's go.
used to.
I want to use the DMV as an example
Okay.
because, all right, take me through. And by the way, I think all DMVs should be hot pink. I think they should paint the whole building inside and out hot pink. I think it would make a way better experience at the DMV. I've always envisioned that. You walk in, it's just, like Barbie
Well, they're
lands.
going to walk in with a smile, aren't they?
And that's the whole, people don't really smile at the DMV. I feel like if the whole thing was hot pink, it would be very the happiest place on earth. Instead of people generally don't want to go. But let's use that as an example. Sorry, quick tangent. I want to use that as an example. Let's say what could happen, and how Abatis could prevent something. Would
Well,
prevent something.
what could happen is a number of things. Best case scenario, I guess, is the threat actors get in there and they ransom the data. Yeah, so they deploy a malware. DMV have not seen this before, and the bad guys get behind the security defenses and they encrypt the data, and then they hold the DMV to ransom for an awful lot of money. Yeah, that's probably the least worst situation. Ratchet that up a scale, see what's going on in other parts of the world. Look at some of the previous examples of large scale attacks. Bad guys could deploy wipers and just destroy the data, or they could be really innovative and they could change the data.
Oh man,
Right.
yeah,
Now you use
yeah.
the DMV as an example. Now you imagine if they got into the Department for pensions payments. You want to cause a catastrophe in a country. The guy that gets paid $5,000 a month on his pension, you pay him $500. And the guy that only gets $500, you pay him $5,000.
Yeah. Just
Now
update the database to change the numbers that people are
Yep.
expecting.
And that's,
Yeah.
That's just a switch. I mean, that's something that would be relatively straightforward. Now, this is something that would either be done by anarchists or nation states hell bent on causing disaster. Yeah.
Sure.
If people don't get the money they expect, what's going to happen? Yeah.
So what's stopping them right now? What's the layer right now that's preventing those things? We don't hear too much about that. I'm guessing things have happened in government and they don't tell us because it's not good if
Yeah,
they are you
I'm
right?
sure, and I'm not privy to what they're not telling people about. So I understand
Me neither.
when they do, because it comes out, it's public, yeah, and it's pretty bad. Um, Look, you've got dedicated people out there doing the best that they can with tools that are not fit for purpose. I mean, our biggest challenge is education. I think that's the biggest thing we need to do. We need to educate people that there are different ways of fixing a really bad problem. So you've got a lot of dedicated folk out there who are working really, really hard using the tools that they've got, and you know they they've got to get lucky every single day, and the bad guys have only got to get lucky once, yeah, and
Right.
then they're in, and then you have these examples that we've seen over and over, whether it's a city that's gone down, and now all of a sudden everything's having to be done on paper, on fax or something like that. Hospitals that are taken down, all of a sudden, they can't do operations. In Europe, we've had people die on the table because the hospitals have been ransomed. Yeah. So,
Oh man,
you know, yeah, these are really, the people who are doing this are
real
pretty
stories.
despicable.
Yeah.
Real stories. Berlin, University Hospital in Berlin, 3 or 4 years ago, there's a ransomware attack, and guy on the table, they couldn't, he died on his way to the other hospital. Yeah. It was just, horrible situation. So
Right.
these are life or death situations that are going on now. These are real problems.
Why are they doing this? The bad guys. What is in it for the bad guys that makes them want to create this kind of havoc?
In the case of the hospital attack, it was purely financial. So they were looking to achieve a return on investment.
Sure.
Um, and they're businessmen. I mean, they're despicable people, but they're still business people. Yeah, they're looking for return on investment. Um, if you look at attacks against US critical national infrastructure, Christopher Wray gave a speech, I think, to US Congress February 2024, I think it was. He was the former head of the FBI, or certainly a senior FBI officer. He talked about how Chinese APT, a Chinese Advanced Persistent Threat Actor, had got into critical infrastructure in the United States, and had been in there for over 5 years. And the type of attack that was is the next example, because this wasn't about ransomware. This wasn't about data exfiltration. This was about waiting to turn the lights off.
Uh,
So if you had a situation where, hypothetically, China decides it's going to invade Taiwan, and it's worried about Uncle Sam coming and helping the Taiwanese fend off an attack from China, from the People's Republic of China. So what do? You cause massive, massive disruption at home. You turn off your telecoms, you turn off your water, you turn off your power, you make sure the banks don't work, the food supply closes down, the trucks can't go, there's no fuel in the fuel stations, all of this
right.
kind of stuff. You can absolutely do that with a cyber attack. Totally. It's a flick of a switch. And using the right malware, it's not difficult to do. There is very, very little people can do against attacks that they've not seen before.
Yeah.
If you turn up with malware that's new, that's original, you can't. If you're using traditional methodologies, you cannot stop again. You can't. It's highly, highly unlikely you'll stop. You'll stop it. And
Yeah.
people
Well,
come
and
back.
and
They'll push back, Evan. Yeah, they'll push back. But look at SolarWinds. Look at the Russians were in the White House for 2 years. For God's sake, they were in the cameras watching the president. Yeah, I mean,
right.
for 2 years, nobody realised what was going on. You can't accuse the White House of not having the right sort of budget and the right guys to actually have the right level of protection. I mean, the White House is probably one of the most protected IT infrastructures in the world. But the bad guys were able to get in there because their methodologies were better than the defences, and that's your
Sure.
problem. At the
Yeah.
moment, everybody's playing catch up. The bad guys are ahead,
Yeah.
and I think it's just a case of, you know, whether whether a Russian or a Chinese a nation state attacker wants to do damage to a given country's critical national infrastructure and get caught doing it. Yeah, because that becomes an active war, doesn't it? It's very, very difficult to actually attribute, the people behind the attack. I mean, they'll look at the time. They'll look at the clock. They'll look and see what time these attacks are going on. When the bad guys are doing things within the IT infrastructure, and they'll say, "Oh, that implies the guy got to work at 9 o'clock Moscow time, started work 9:15, clocked off at 1 o'clock for lunch, started again at 2 o'clock Moscow time, and went home at 5:30." Well, it's very, very easy for me to put my clock to 3 hours ahead, and I'll start work, and I'll pretend, or I'll work to a Russian clock. It doesn't mean that it's the Russians that are doing it. You don't know who's doing it. That's the problem.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So let's jump a bit into the AI component of this.
Mm.
How does AI make these attacks easier, and how are those how can those be prevented?
And this is where we get to the point of where we are pretty low on the scale at the moment. This is where it's starting to become very, very dangerous. AI is a massive force enabler for the bad guys. Yeah. So we've had examples recently where bad guys have trained AI to go hunting for vulnerabilities, to write the code on the fly, and successfully attack infrastructure. So that's happening now. There was reports last month about the Chinese using Anthropic, so which is what is that, Claude? And they used a public accessible AI tool
Mm-hmm.
at scale and went off and created carnage. So you've got that situation. You've got situations where in the past, if a vulnerability had ever been identified in code, whether it's on a firewall or in a server, or even in your in your AV, you used to have, if you go back a couple of years, you probably had 2 weeks to issue the patch, test the patch, deploy the patch, and make your environment secure. That 2 weeks was the time it took the bad guys to take the same information that's been made privy to me, because I'm using Fortinet, I'm using Cisco, I'm using whoever it is that's got a Citrix, whoever's got the problem with their system. I get the information. I know that I need to fix it because I use that operating system, or I use that kit. The bad guys got the information at the same time. So the bad guys will then sit there with their coders and they'll write the code to try and weaponize what they've got from the researchers that are telling them all about the vulnerabilities. Used to take 2 weeks. Bad guys are now using AI and they're weaponizing a published vulnerability in minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's
that
wild.
patch problem that you used to be able to solve, you cannot solve that now.
So how do you? So now would you have you? I imagine you'd have to use the same, at least understand the same tool that they're using. So say it's Claude, you would use Claude's LLM API, whatever, to protect from the things that it's finding to find the vulnerabilities.
Right. Yeah, and you'd think that would make sense,
like
wouldn't you? Except you've got
at least
you've
for
got a number
Claude.
of issues. You've got a number of issues here. Yeah.
Yeah.
We're the good guys, so we teach our LLMs in an ethical way. We train it on data that's ethically sourced. It's like I'm playing by Queensberry rules for boxing, and I'm getting in the ring with an MMA specialist. Yeah.
Right.
Or taking a knife to a gunfight. I mean, we are just completely outmaneuvered. the bad guys are training their LLMs on anything that they can get their hands on. And we, as the industry now, and it's not my company, but just the industry generally, is playing catch up. The problem you've got is it's the same old reactive model. Yeah, you're waiting until there is an attack. But the problem that you've got now is that with the advent of LLMs, the attacks are coming in so much faster that people don't have time to issue patches, to do regression testing on the patches. They're having to take
Right.
risks with their IT estates that they just,
Yeah,
they just don't want to have to do.
sure. Believe it or not, I think it's even, I mean, and this is massive, but I'm going to call it a microcosm in this context where if this political systems, and this is why I talk about like incentives and policy, like something needs to change because government right now can't make policy change in any nimble fashion, right? In places take, California, I'll give an example, and it's every year,
Hmm.
right? You can make policy changes.
Yeah,
You can't just change the California Constitution. It goes through a process, right?
yeah,
Um, so let's, and I don't believe there's anywhere that any state, I think they all follow some similar sort of structure, right? Where they can,
yeah,
it goes through committees. I mean, it's a big process to get something
yeah.
turned into a law for the right reasons, at least for the last few hundred years. But now we have something that is so fast that if if and is going to change so rapidly, whether it's security attacks or decisions that need to be made around policy, my opinion is that the political system needs to become agile like software development at the speed of AI, or cyber attacks are just sort of the beginning of the issues. There's just no way to keep up to what's needed at
You, you, you're
a
never you,
legislative level.
you're never going to beat. You're never going to beat. In my opinion, you will not beat an AI driven threat actor using AI, because you are reacting, and
Hmm.
you are still having to pattern match. You're still having to look to understand what the bad guys are doing. They are now operating at machine speed. Yeah. So they are able to find vulnerabilities that you do not know about to get in. They're able to change their code, the malware that they're using, the polymorphic malware, stuff. This is malware that will rewrite itself, it'll hide itself, it'll obfuscate itself, it will get into the target environment. And your AI is looking for the pattern. It's looking to recognize a family of malware. Well, if it's not seen it before, it doesn't matter,
Well, no,
what kind of,
sure,
it just won't see it. What you need to do is to re-architect your IT infrastructure, um, at the base, absolutely at
right,
the base, at foundation level, and just absolutely refuse any changes to that operating system unless you actually give it permission. Yeah, use the risk owner. Um,
yeah,
and that's what Abatis has done for like the last 20 years, and it's protected,
right,
military, civilian, nuclear facilities. It's protected air traffic control systems. It's protected government databases. It's
yeah,
protected pharmaceutical companies, railway networks, and all of these organizations that deployed it did not suffer a breach in the environment that was being protected by Abatis, because you can absolutely do that. Um, it's just, it's not popular because from the industry's perspective, I mean, once you deploy Abatis, that's it. We're not going to come back next week, next month, next year and say you need to buy a new version of Abatis because the bad guys have raised their game. Abatis does what it does. It stops these changes at the operating system level. Um, it's a fit and forget solution.
right.
The return on investment is immediate, um, and that's something that our challenge is getting through the noise that's made by the industry. If you imagine these companies are spending hundreds of billions a year on marketing. They're going on these road shows, they're making these outrageous claims about the security that they're supposed to be providing, which they're not. And that's
Yeah.
evidenced by the damage that's been done to the world. Our challenge is getting through that. But I do think, and I think you sort of said about how things are changing. I think things are changing because things have to change because things are so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I
and
don't, yeah.
they are. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
and if the director of the FBI turns around and complains that the Chinese have been in US critical national infrastructure for 5
Yeah.
years,
Yeah.
that's pretty damning. That's pretty serious, and they're
Right.
still there.
Yeah. Well, I guess because it's reactive, I guess just to debate it a little is like, why aren't they doing it now? Like, why doesn't the state of California do that now? Is it job retention? Is it,
I I I
there's
I,
got to
I
be a
don't think.
reason why they're, yeah,
No, I just don't think they know. They're not aware of what
what's
the
possible.
possibilities are. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think, you know, we're 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 promoting the methodology. We're talking to people about the methodology, and genuinely, I've had so many times I've spoken to people, and they've said, "Why is this not being used everywhere? Why is it not
Yeah.
absolutely everywhere?" Well,
Yeah.
it's an easy answer. Yeah, the company was small. The company was under resourced before we bought it, um, and the guy that ran it his way. I mean, he was very pleased doing what he was doing, but he wasn't out looking to protect the world.
Yeah.
Um,
You
and
have a
I'd like
bigger
to do
vision
that.
around
I
what's
mean,
possible. Yeah.
yeah, look, we could, Abatis can go on anything with an operating system. So that's IT, OT, and IoT, Internet of Things.
Hmm.
It's probably got the lightest touch on the planet. It's under 100 kilobytes in code. It's absolutely tiny.
Yeah.
So it can go on your pacemaker.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
you can't, it can go on a security camera. It can
Yeah.
go on the HVAC. It can go on the air conditioning unit in a smart building. Yeah, it can
Yeah.
go traffic lights. I mean, these are all attack vectors that the bad guys are using that traditionally you cannot protect against.
Yeah.
Yeah, point of sale devices, ATM machines, um, and it will protect all of the old equipment, and that's just not popular. I mean, we've got Microsoft, bless them, are pushing for the world to landfill Windows 10 machines. Why? Because it fits their business model.
Right.
Because they don't want to provide security for old equipment. They want people to buy new machines. That's their business. That's their business model. That's how they make the money. Yeah,
Hmm.
they get you to buy new equipment every 2-3 years. I mean, look, we've seen this. The cell phones. I'd have go back like 10, 15 years. Your cell phone would probably last you 5 years. Now it starts to break up at like a year and a half, and at 2 it's
Yeah.
dead. You've got to buy a new one. I mean, it's built
Yeah.
in redundancy, isn't it?
Sure.
That's the model that's out there. So, you can't. I'm not picking on Microsoft, but there's nothing wrong with those machines. You could deploy Abatis on those machines. You don't need to rely on Microsoft for security, and you can run those machines until the hard drives turn to dust. And before they turn to dust, you migrate your operating system onto a VM, and then you can run it forever.
Yeah. Well, I'm guessing governments are running on it at most. They're not putting the best machines there right now.
No, yeah, you I kind of hope the DoD and places like that are using like really modern kit. But yes, certainly, you go into your local city, they will have a lot of legacy equipment, and the
Oh yeah.
guys who are running the security there will be worried.
Yeah. And they're using legacy applications too. I know, in my time, I think they were, they're using Windows I forget what it was, but it was old. The new one was
Yeah,
10. It was like 3 or 4 generations old. Outlook was,
yeah, yeah.
not
Well,
even the latest.
we go back on the shelf without having to compile code or write anything else, off the shelf, all the way back to NT4. That's
Yeah,
1996.
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
We've had some interesting requests. I mean, we're writing code for some machines that look like coffee dispensers. I mean, these things are, these are huge, with these spinning discs are like that
Yeah,
big.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's, old Unix
Wow.
machines and things like that. So, um, but you you don't, you shouldn't bin it. You shouldn't destroy it, get rid of it, if you can keep using it. Um, yeah,
Well,
it's
with something like Abatis, it sounds like it doesn't really matter if it's old or not. So it fits.
it
It's
doesn't matter.
yeah,
And the older the equipment, the bigger the use case, I guess, because you can't put modern cybersecurity architecture on old equipment. It won't fit. You'll cause you'll cause the operating system to fall over.
sure.
It's too
Yeah.
complicated. With us, 100 kilobytes of code, it just doesn't matter. It'll sit nicely in the operating system and do what it does.
So, do you think that politicians should be looking at cyber
Oh,
security as like
hugely.
a core pillar of their
Yeah,
platforms and building trust,
yeah.
similar to
Look,
public
it's
safety in a sense?
everything. Yeah, totally agree with you. Um, the world is digitizing. Yeah, I mean, it's just, we've got this fourth industrial revolution that people are talking about. You look at Web3, and the the speed that that the world is adopting, um, the latest technology, the connectivity that's coming to the world, the Internet of Things. I mean, it's phenomenal. The what it can do for good is absolutely amazing. Um, but as fast as we're running to develop this, we seem to be forgetting that we need to make it secure. So I
Right.
think, you know, if politicians were actually responsible for this for a solution or delivering a solution, um, then I think we probably wouldn't be in such a difficult place as we are at the moment.
Sure. Well, finding accountability and taking responsibility and with politicians is tricky because for a lot of reasons, but we'll just start with, the news being so far removed from the source information that, you can sort of craft any story at this point, throw it into the social media machine, and
Yeah,
you'll have
and then
some people believe it, right? So
yeah, and then maybe say sorry later, but it's too late. The damage is done.
they're
Yeah,
already on to the next thing. Like things
yeah,
move too fast, right? Like we're
yeah,
already just like every day is a new. Now we're, you know, what's today's big thing? Minnesota's fraud. This is a fun one. It was in the last, this is an incredible thing to watch the news go crazy on and see all sides of this, and money being spent uh, improperly. Not
right.
fun. Not fun
Yeah,
to watch that play out, especially when you see it. I've seen some of this firsthand. I've seen, um, you know, you go, boy, that's a lot of money that's just thrown into the garbage or given to things that the public didn't expect. And as I'm trying to think of, ways to double down on keeping people safe, what you're offering here is a really important piece of that equation.
yeah,
Um, so
yeah. No, absolutely. And if there's environments where we really want to get out there and help, and be altruistic about this. Yeah. So I mean, the healthcare systems are taking an absolute hammering. Yeah. The problem that they've got, and this is life and death. Yeah, life or death. Yeah, we've seen this in Europe. Um, the education system. These
yeah,
are all soft targets because
yeah,
they, if it's I don't know, local healthcare as opposed to some of the big insurance-backed players, yeah,
Right.
then, they don't have the money, and they take shortcuts. So then it becomes a problem. Schools, again, unless they are well funded, are probably under-resourced in the security on the security side. Um, and they're not of great interest to the big security firms because the money's not there, so
Sure.
it slides. Yeah, we'd like to help
Yeah.
those guys.
Reactivity, which is how security systems are often thought of, like we're discussing, is part of the model of generally, very often capital expenditure, or any financial expenditure, like in a government organization or whatever. It's you can't spend recklessly; you get in trouble. You don't want to spend on things you don't need. You don't generally have a lot of money. You're given a very restricted budget very often. A lot of these systems, they're in a tough situation, and things like security, just from a small organizational standpoint, it's something you don't think about until you need it, right? Similar with like an HR department. Not the first thing you don't generally start with an HR department in your startup company,
Mhm. Mm.
right? HR departments are something that come, I don't know what number, 10, 20, person number 10 in a software team. What number is the HR person, right? You need enough people to warrant having an HR person,
Yeah, yeah,
right? Where it
but
becomes
very important.
very important, but
Yeah,
at some point it becomes an administrative burden,
yeah,
and you need someone dedicated. And
yeah.
I'm sad to think that security fits in that category because of the how catastrophic it could be. But I fear there's a psychological barrier there, or an organizational barrier that has become habitualized in how we think as people and how organizations are built. And because you don't see it until you need it, and that could be too late, you're not going to spend the first million or half of whatever, for in the beginning. And then you're like, uh-oh, it happened. I don't know how to work. How do you work your way around that?
You need to you, you need to get the risk owner to understand the reality. Yeah. And the risk owner needs to ask the right sort of questions. Um, a lot of enterprise are like sheep. Yeah. They'll ask the vendor, who else uses your security tool? Um, and if there is a lot of take up for a particular security company, um, you're a retailer, maybe your competitor uses them as well, then you're happy. And you can say to the CISO can say to the CEO, well, that it's an industry standard. Yeah, everybody in retail uses the same organization. Um, that's risk deflection. Yeah, the question should be where, at what point does your security actually fail? And you won't get an honest answer. They need to, the CISOs need to understand exactly what it is that they're bringing on board, who it is that they're trusting with their IT infrastructure, and what have the failures been in the past.
Yeah.
And don't don't take the metrics, the KPIs that are given to you by the vendor, because you can't
Yeah.
trust them. Of
Right.
course, of course they're going to make it look good. Yeah, they're
Right.
they're they're, they're there to make a sale,
Of course.
and
Another funny conundrum that affects the whole world and all of its parts of sales, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's all about the sale,
Yeah.
not not about the security. Um,
Yeah. That could be an
kind of
incentive structure issue at the sales level, right? At the sales employee level. If the company's not mission oriented in the right way, if they don't structure the incentives with the mission, in a sense, there's a lot of ways in the cultural and building of the organization, maybe that can help with things like that. Um, I don't know about secure it, but at least help. Um,
Well, I
but
think I would say to the risk owner is look at the service level agreement that you are signing with your security vendor, and look at it properly. I won't name names, but there was a very large cybersecurity company quite recently who had a big problem with their product that caused a lot of harm. And one of my colleagues in Germany sent me the local service level agreement, and in that it said words to the effect of, if you are mission critical, if you've got any data that is valuable, if you think that you losing your data or losing your operating system could have an adverse effect upon the running of your business, do not use our software.
Hmm.
And that's part of the service level agreement. Yeah. So the security vendor was saying, we're not fit for purpose. Do not use us in hospitals. Do not use us in the military. Do not use us in critical national
Yeah.
infrastructure within the SLA. At the same time, they're out selling very, very hard
Yeah.
into
Sure.
all of those environments.
Into all those.
Now,
It's a protection. It's a protection clause, obviously, if they ever have to go and they go, well, we told you shouldn't, even
and
though.
that's exactly what they use. Now, this is actually being changed because organizations, software companies are in Europe are going to be made responsible for their software. Now, that's going to be
Yeah.
really interesting because if you look at, you take Microsoft as an example. So every month they come out with patches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most recently, I mean, there's a horrendous number of problems that they had to fix. So it
Mm.
means that they're selling a product that is porous, it's leaky, it's not, it really isn't good enough. And it's not me just saying that. I think Congress really gave Microsoft a hard time talking
Mhm.
about the quality of their code writing and the problems that they've got with their code. But the same organization is making billions of dollars a year providing
Sure.
cybersecurity for a problem that's got, for software that's got problems. So, there's a business model problem here.
Right. 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 The
Yeah.
models. It's deeper. It's at a lot of levels. I want to respect our time for today. That we've allotted for today, and obviously we could. Seems like we could do this for hours, but
Yeah.
that was a easy conversation to have with you. I'm grateful for the great work you're doing to protect people, um, and hopefully it protects a lot of people. And I hope it makes you a lot of money in doing so. The magic of finding the right thing is helping people and making money all at the same time. If you could do both, you've figured out and loving what you do. Um, you have a very important role that you're playing in protecting uh, the new world we live in, right? So thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks for that, Evan. Yeah. No, you're
My
right.
pleasure.
And, we've got a big job to do, but we've got the right product. And you're right. I'm enjoying doing it. So it's
Good.
good.
Good. Good. Good. It was a pleasure having you on today. Thank you so much.
No,
Talk
it's
to you soon.
likewise. Likewise. It's good to meet you. And thanks for the opportunity to meet and talk.
A pleasure. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays and have a great new year.
And a wonderful 2026. Take care.